for Brian Allen and Scotty Giddos. The 5, Amira Girl, is Dave Smith and Laqdar Romoly, and the 7, Vino Palantina, Dave Smith and Brandon Louis. 1100 metre trial, they're making their way around to the start.
So it does look like a tougher race for him to go back in, and he goes around a $13 chance. Number 1, Edward's Choice. Number 2, El Sueno would have been favourite in this event, but is a scratching, so we move to our new favourite, and that's number 3, More Than Enough, from the yard of S.J. Miller. I'm not sure whether he goes back to S.J. or whether he stays here with Neil Della in the region, but if he is, he should be a pretty handy acquisition too, and he should be able to pinch one of these Class 1, Class 2 type events in the very near future. Laqdar Romoly rides today. Last 2 runs have been on a heavy 8 and a soft 7, and I'm not convinced that's his preferred surface, so back on top of the ground here to a good 4, expecting a big showing out of number 3, More Than Enough. Number 4, Soldiers Camp, steps up sharply in distance here. Went to 1400 metres for the first time at Kalgoorlie last start, beaten 2.5 by Scottish Laird. And Charlotte Skerritt, trainer, now takes this horse from 1400 out to the 1760. And we'll find out very shortly whether or not he sees out the distance. Is drawn wide, but does have good speed. Expect that Jagsy Turner can get across from that awkward draw, and fingers crossed he gets a decent run. He's a $15 chance. Number 5, Sound the Charge, from the yard of Jason Miller. Zephyr Johnston Porter takes off 2 kilos, and from the inside draw should get every favour. Actually wasn't too bad last start. I know the big beaten margin was 8 1/4, but it probably wasn't run to suit, and he probably hasn't really appreciated being on those wet tracks down in Perth. So very much like More Than Enough, they get to a good 4 here, and it'd be no surprise to see Sound the Charge improve at double figures. Number Pray With You, there was no rider published in the race book, but if you are looking at it now, it's Victoria Corver who takes the ride here for Ricky Brown. Pray With You's put in a couple of handy performances, a flashing light run going back 4 starts ago behind Dreamtime Jean, and then again 2 starts ago behind Brazen Empress. Is a little bit hit and miss, but on his day, he's not a bad $12 chance, this horse. He's number 6. Number 7, The Final Bell, Peter Fernie, Lucy Fiore, looking for a combining treble here already early in the program. This is the last start maiden winner, a daughter of Safeguard, who was a very expensive yearling purchase, starting to slowly but surely peg some of that back. She's at $4 today as she looks to go back to back, and she certainly looks like she'll stay, no worries. Number 8, Maraschino, Chloe as a party riding here for Peter Fernie, yet to really find his feet this time in, been a little bit disappointing on multiple occasions. Getting back out to the staying trips will suit, but at $18, looking for him to improve. Number 9, Serviceman, first start in the region, now with a new trainer too, goes to John Lugg here, and Cassie Martin is booked to ride at 56 kilos after her claim. 2200 back to 1760, so has some residual fitness on his side, and was racing around at Belmont throughout this winter period. And some of those runs haven't been too bad in West Speed Platinum type grade. Expecting him to go quite well here at an $11 quote. Number 10, Tack Goes Boom, Sharon Miller, the trainer, expecting that this horse probably does stay here with Neil Della. Christy Bennett picks up the ride from Bobanamic Edwards. Was a winner at York going back 4 starts ago over a 19.20, and you'd have to say that's a fairly similar race to this, so at $16 he could be a novelty bet inclusion. Number 11, Whiskey Mac, made a splash at his WA debut when going back 1,600 metres from a 3,200 metre maiden hurdle at Warrnambool to a mile Class 2 when breaking through first up. Hasn't quite shown that same level since. $12 is the quote for Lisa Staples and Justin Robbins. Number 12, Morticia, Dion Luciani and Tash Faithful combine here. Beaten a long way first up, came under pressure a long way out. She's a staying type of mare who just looks like she needs ground. She's at $20 today. And the final horse here, the first emergency, gains a run and is my on top selection as well in Colchino, who was jumping out of the ground last start behind Brazen Empress. It was a very good performance from this 7-year-old. Hasn't won for a long time, 780 days, but he has shown more than enough ability on occasion. Comes into it on the fresh side, a month between runs. If he reproduces that effort, I think he's quite hard to beat here, number 13, Colchino. Happy to have him on top, and he is $6.50. My numbers in race 4 are 13, 7, 3 and 6. 13 for me, Colchino. Glad this horse got a run because he looked like one of the main players. 7, The Final Bell's an improving type and a last start maiden winner. 3, More Than Enough, has been very well supported since the scratching of El Sueno. And number 6, Pray With You. Now that there's a rider booked, we can throw him into the first 4. 13, 7, 3 and 6. Very open and even type of race, but I was happy enough with the price point on offer about Colchino. 13, 7, 3 and 6, 3 minutes away from race number 4 here at Kalgoorlie.
Okay, 2 minutes off start time for the BMGS Handicap, 1760 the distance, and your scratchings are number 2 and 14. Field of 12 to run. 390 is your favourite, more than enough for SJ Miller and Laqdar Romoly. Maraschino there on screen. Coming off a last start, 9th behind Scottish Laird, steps up to the 1760 today. Tack goes boom. One from the Sharon Miller yard in Neil Della's colours though. No doubt will most likely hang around after this race on the Goldfields. There's Sound the Charge for Zeph and Johnston Porter and trainer Jason Miller about to come up into line. So it's more than enough. $3.80 the final bell, $4. $7.50 about Colchino. Upwards others. So Morticia goes forward. Here comes Colchino. Jumped down to the ground last start 4 weeks ago here at the KBRC. Here comes the final bell. Threatening more than enough for favouritism. Serviceman, new runner to the Johnny Lugg stables, about to come forward. So Serviceman comes up. A $12 chance with Tab Touch. So Tack goes boom. About to come forward into line. Christy Bennett in the saddle. So 5 or 6 to come forward here. So Maraschino comes forward. Here comes Soldiers Camp. Troy Turner in the saddle. Edward's Choice at the top. A $17 chance. Links along. So still out of line, we've got Whiskey Mac and More Than Enough. So More Than Enough to come forward for Romoly, and Whiskey Mac will be the last one. Lisa Staples in the saddle. So More Than Enough locked away. Here's Whiskey Mac to complete the line. $4 the final bell, your favourite now with Tab Touch. They're set at the 1760. The BMGS, stand by. Thanks Keith, Tab Radio on board. Line stands well. Sound the Charge drawn in close with the final bell, who's ended up favourite. Attendants just assisting one out wide on the track. So a starter just holding them for the time being. Might be Edward's Choice, who needs the assistance. Red lights still blink away. There we go, gates fly back, they're off racing. Now Colchino stood there and missed it. Morticia didn't get the best of the start, likewise with Pray With You, and More Than Enough is going to settle in the second half of the field. With early speed, it was Maraschino who shows the way. So it's Maraschino a length, Sound the Charge, then Edward's Choice, who settles down third. They were followed next of all by the Final Bell. Serviceman around the outside, improving its position, likewise with Soldiers Camp. Then down on the fence, we have Morticia. They were followed a length and a half, then to Whiskey Mac, followed by Tack Goes Boom, a length and a half to More Than Enough. And then a further 3 to Pray With You, who covers up Colchino. They're spotting the leader 8 lengths. 1,100 metres to run in the back straight. And it's Maraschino who shows the way, just over a length, Edward's Choice. They were followed next of all by Sound the Charge third. Fourth is Serviceman. And then we had the Final Bell, who's in a nice position, fifth. Morticia was next, being followed by Soldiers Camp. And then we had Whiskey Mac in the second half. More Than Enough, one off the fence. The inside is Tack Goes Boom, followed by Pray With You, and Colchino still at the tail. So onto the side of the course with 700 metres to run. And it's Maraschino showing the way. Leads out just over a length, running second, Sound the Charge, third, Edward's Choice. They were followed next of all, working into the race, Serviceman, followed by the Final Bell, who pops off now. The inside, Morticia saving ground, Pray With You starts to extend. Soldiers Camp in that lot as well. Whiskey Mac, well back then to More Than Enough, followed by Tack Goes Boom, Whiskey Mac, and it's Colchino at the tail, but Maraschino off and gone with 300 metres to run, opens up 4 lengths, Serviceman running on. Then Soldiers Camp, who extends, followed next of all by Pray With You and More Than Enough. A late charge down the outside. It's Maraschino. Here's More Than Enough down the outside. Maraschino in front. More Than Enough over the top. Gets the job done. More Than Enough wins in the final stride. Denies Maraschino. They were followed in third by the Final Bell. Soldiers Camp, Whiskey Mac. Then we had Pray With You. Well back then to Tack Goes Boom. Followed in next of all by Colchino. And then we had next in Morticia, Edward's Choice. And one of the last was Sound the Charge. More Than Enough. Just enough in the end. Got there in the final stride. And denies Maraschino. 7 gets third. That's the Final Bell. 3, 8, 7. And 4 will get fourth. That's Soldiers Camp. 1:48.05. The winning gallop for More Than Enough, who started to sprout wings at the furlong pole and really let down nicely. And Laqdar Romoly gets the job done for SJ with this Rich Enough gelding out of Pret a Partir. The Choisir mare, owned by SJ himself, J. Brennan, Mrs. L. Brennan, Mrs. Ed Scott, Miss S. Scott, P. Roach and Mrs. A. Chapman. More Than Enough, your winner. 8 second, Maraschino for Pete Fernie, Chloe as a party. By Machino from Twaddle, owned by the Bellhouse Racing Machino Syndicate. Third in was a 7, that's the Final Bell, Pete Fernie, Lucy Fiore. By Safeguard from Mississippi Bell, owned by Luke Fernie, Miss M. Manfredini, K. Doak, A. Ingalls and Magumba Park Syndicate. And fourth in was the 4, Soldiers Camp, Charlotte Skerritt and Troy Turner. Numbers 3, 8, 7, 4. A neck by 3 1/4 lengths, 1:48.05. They've came home in 36.29, and the tote favourite salutes there. More Than Enough. Geez, you'd almost would have taken your money back at the top of the straight. This horse was a long way back and has absolutely flown to the line to deny Maraschino. Numbers 3, 8, 7, 4. Race 5 is next. The BML Ventures Handicap over the 1,200 metres, 2:56 is the start time. Troy Turner replaces Bo Banovic Edwards on Naughty Gossip, number 6, and the scratching is number 2. Duo Muso not taking its part in the race. A field of 11 to go around in race 5, but in the meantime, 3, 8, 7, 4 interim after the running of race number 4.